to Power Play, and one of our top stories, Prime Minister Mark Carney looking to ease years of tensions with China as he says he hopes to meet with President Xi soon. Amid tariffs with the U.S., the federal government is aiming to build a new and more stable trade relationship with China and other trading partners. So how should Canada approach, or the federal government approach, a new relationship with China, ensuring that its eyes are wide open? Let's bring back the front bench to talk about that. Mohammed Ali, Laura D'Angelo, Jamie Ellerton, and Sebastian Skamsky. Jamie, I'll start with you on this one. It's a very complex. It's not simple. I feel a bit of deja vu in that I remember covering the initial year, I would say, of the Trudeau government, where the objective was very similar, and from a economics perspective, understandably so, but we've been through a lot in the interim. What do you think the prospects of a different relationship with China are?
Yeah, I think these circumstances over these past 10 years have also just fundamentally changed, Vashi. I think on the one hand, Canada is having its closest trading partner rip up trade agreements and essentially potentially disrupting the very foundations of our economy. And so what does a new normal look like? And on the other hand, you have the relationship essentially stemming from the Meng Wanzhou Huawei executive arrest here and the two Michaels being detained that put Canada-China relations probably at their lowest point in history. So there's obviously room for improvement to come off the absolute floor of how you would measure these in any conventional sense. But I think the real risk here is that the Liberal Party has a history of trying to get too close to China too fast and to tick off a lot of Canadians in the process on this. And so I think the Prime Minister probably, frankly, is uniquely situated to try and find a balance on this compared to his predecessor, who was way out over his skis. While at the same time, I don't think you're going to see broad-based political support from grassroots Canadians that say, hey, import more from China and we're going to blow up Ontario's auto industry as an example to allow those cheap EVs to come here. So I think there's going to be the whole purpose of re-engaging with China in this and kind of getting off that floor probably is going to be an uninteresting, boring, steady diplomatic engagement just to kind of reset level set and kind of restore them to some sense of normalcy, while maybe looking for some very smaller, in the grand scheme of things from an economic standpoint, points for deals on a sector-by-sector basis. But I don't think you're going to need some grand reset, nor do I think you're going to return to kind of the Dominic Barton school of China relationship, which is to blindly pursue a free trade agreement at the expense of anything else in this country.
There is a very interesting imminent kind of proof point in a way to all of this, because a lot of it, Mohammed, is discussed in the abstract at this point, but like the EVs that Jamie referenced are going to be, I think, the first proof point, right? Because there's pressure to take those tariffs off that were put in place back in the fall of 2024. And you've got some regional divides. We spoke to Michael Kovrig earlier on the show, who made, I thought, such an excellent point. Like, it's by design that Saskatchewan is being pitted against Ontario. Like, that is what China does, right? They exacerbate, or they target regional differences. They didn't choose to retaliate on canola that is largely in Saskatchewan by chance, right? It was done deliberately. And his advice was like, let that inform the position you take. Like, be aware of that. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, and I think, I agree with Jamie that I don't think this is going to be like a quick, speedy sort of thought of relationship. It started first with the former minister, Melanie Joly, who tried to at least have dialogue. And with the current situation with the U.S., you can't rely on just, things going normal there. I think they need to find that balance. I think Cody Bloy going over, trying to mend fence or find what does a middle ground look like. And seeing the readout from his conversation, the prime ministers with the premier of China, where they actually know that we need to also work through the sensitivity areas of agri-food and electric vehicles, which we never saw under the Trudeau government trying to speak with China on that. I think that their ability to navigate that very closely, there's going to be critical mineral trade, there's going to be other things that they might be able to find synergies on. There's the same thing they're going to deal with India as well, who's also untrustworthy. The prime minister said China is the biggest threat to Canada. So I don't think he's going in with blinders on, as previous governments have. I think he's looking eyes wide open, but he needs to do something to diversify trade. And I think today with the Indonesian president, and the Indonesian president is here to sign an agreement with the prime minister, predicated both countries want to minimize their exposure to China as well. So I don't think this is a trade U.S. for China situation, which is the prime minister saying we need to find a synergy that we can trade. This is a big, big market. We cannot ignore it, just like we can't ignore the U.S. So
yeah, I just have a few minutes left. I want to get both Sebastian and Laura in. I think that another interesting thing Michael Kovrig reminded me of, though, Sebastian, was even though we may understand trying to approach expanding or changing the relationship with China on a sectoral basis, like we want to do more on climate or on agriculture. China doesn't view it that way, that they link things that we try to compartmentalize. How do you think that might inform what happens?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that point is correct and understandable. We've seen that throughout the years in numerous examples where they've retaliated over issues unrelated to trade. I think my hesitation and reservation, although I wish the Prime Minister well for the success of Canada and for our various sectors that are affected, is this is a man who billed himself as a master negotiator, a kind of diplomatic powerhouse, who was going to, in his own words, really get many of these deals done and be able to deal with difficult actors, like at the time, I know, obviously referencing President Trump, but obviously in mind the leadership in China. And so it is concerning to me that so far in the track record of the first 6 months, this Prime Minister has really been lackluster at best in his ability to deliver tangible outcomes for the Canadian economy when it comes to his numerous diplomatic or international visits, rather. And so if we can't get it done with our allies under Prime Minister Carney, with folks like the UK and France, I am less inclined to believe that he will be able to deliver some major breakthrough with China.
I'm going to throw the floor over to Laura to respond. The last word is yours.
I really agree with what Jamie said. It really resonated with me. And I think one thing that has struck me is it's not just that the economic order is changing, right? It feels like the world order is changing right now. And so it makes a lot of sense to me that Prime Minister Carney and his team are beginning to talk to countries that, to Mohammed's point, we haven't seen them talk to or engage really with in a lot of years. And I think that it's prudent. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think that slow and steady is the way they have to go here. We know too much after the past 10 years, right? We cannot just
That's
dive
the perfect
right
way to
in.
put it, yeah.
Yeah.
We know too much.
We know too
As our
much.
first guest can say all too well. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate the discussion. Our front bench, Laura D'Angelo, Mohammed Ali, Jamie Ellerton, and Sebastian Scamps.